Welcome once again. It is that time of the month. It is time to show you what is new. Now, before we move on, I want to remind you guys, some of you guys out there, you still got some time to make those last pre orders with everything that we talked about this whole month of October. So be sure to take advantage of that while you can. And we're going to talk about some November stuff. And who do we got out there? We got Gordon, Delta, Kevin, Eugene, and Joseph, Gilbert, Train Fan 120, Anthony, Frederick, Joel, and let's see, Kevin and Jaron. So, got a pretty good crowd. We got some great stuff for you. We've got something all new. We talked about it a little bit. Oh, I guess it was just earlier this fall. And we've got some old favorites that you're going to love, but we're offering them in road names we haven't offered before. And I think you guys are going to be happy. We've got a little bit of everything for everybody in all scales. So we've got one more shout out here. We've got Joshua, Owen, NS Productions 8104. Sounds like he's got a YouTube channel. We've got Kenneth, Maurice, Brad, Donnie, Jay Cure, Alexander, Ted Ferguson, and Bobby. So you guys are coming in from all over. I see Mississippi out there. I see California. I see Florida. I see Indiana, and I see Canada. So I think we've got something for everybody. So let's see. Now, about a month or two ago, myself and John, our lead developer, we were on here talking about something new. And this has never been offered in the Genesis line before. So let's go ahead and show you what we're going to be doing this month. Now, like I said, this is all brand new, never been done before in HO. And that is the SD59M-2. Now, you UP fans, you're probably already familiar with this. This is all new, brand new. Now, anybody that knows anything about the SD59M-2s, you'll know a little bit of history of them. These are based on the old SD60Ms. And EMD started rebuilding some of these older SD60Ms. And we'll talk about that in the next coming week on a Train Tuesday. But I wanted to show you guys this. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom into these guys so you can see them. Now, rail fans will note that there's some spotting features here. The biggest spotting features, if I scroll down here to this picture, look at the radiator fan. Kind of looks like an SD70. Yeah. Kind of like the SD70 Aces, the 80s and 90s before them. So these were rebuilt from SD60Ms. Back about 10 years ago, they started doing these. 2010, 2012, and it was basically another way to get maximum life out of these locomotives. It's really no different than having a older automobile and maybe you update it with a fuel-injected engine versus an old carbureted engine, like a retro mod. So it has a lot of the external features of an SD60M, but it's been updated in the interior. And there's some subtle changes on the outside of the car body that we were showing here. And these have been quite popular for the UP. Few changes from what they originally looked like as an SD60M, obviously. And we're offering them in two of each different eras here, the 2010 onward and then 2012 onward. And so you got two different paint schemes to choose from. And now these are Genesis 2.0. So we know what Genesis 2.0 means. Genesis 2.0 means you're going to have all those lighting features that you like. You're going to have the ground lights, the ditch lights, the headlights, your number boards, and of course, all of those settings can be adjusted. So if you're doing 2010 on up, then you're going to probably want to look into these. These are really cool. And these are ones that you just don't see. This is a locomotive that developers looked at. Janik, actually, if you look at our Facebook page and our monthly announcements picture, Janik actually got a lot of the pictures. We also had Brian Marsh of Overland Models supply us some great pictures too of these things right after they came out of the paint shop. And nobody had really done it before, so the developers have said, "Hey, you know what? These are based on SD60Ms. We just did the SD60Ms in Genesis 2.0. Let's do these." So here you go. These are available for pre-order for this month. They're going to have same Genesis 2.0 features that you've come to expect. You can get it with the Tsunami 2 sound decoder, and the see-through steps, the sander lines. And no, they don't. Sander line doesn't function. I know there's a question out there. It's kind of an inside joke with us Athearn guys. Walkway tread, see-through cab windows, all of those things that you're used to on your Genesis 2.0 models. And the biggest thing for a lot of guys is the lighting features. And yeah, that's really cool. I mean, everybody likes those lighting features. You can really fine-tune your model, especially when you're talking about the ground lights. Not everybody has their layout settings, as far as light, the same. So you might need to increase the intensity of your lights or dim them, just depends. But what's cool is with decoders, you're allowed to fine tune as you see fit. So, and don't worry. I know there's some guys out there saying, "Oh, it's a more modern 6-axle power." Don't worry, we haven't forgotten you guys. We've got some older 6-axle power that I know you're going to like. But before we get to that, we're going to get to our next item. So, like I said, we will be talking about these coming up on a Train Tuesday in about a week or so. So the next one I want to talk about is, since we were talking about, SD60Ms, it would make sense for us to do another run of the SD60Ms, right? Of course, they're going to be 2.0, and any issues that had come in the first run that have been since repaired, those are all taken care of. There's nothing to worry about with those. They've all been tested. They are ready to go. They are ready to leave and work on your layout. So let me go ahead and share. And I've got some road numbers or road names here that I know you guys are going to love because we were getting so many requests for some of these. So yeah, we're going to start out with UP. UP is always famous, very popular. A lot of you guys are like, "Why do you guys always do UP?" Well, because there's a lot of UP modelers out there. Now, we, again, did a few different versions, a few different eras. And you've got to watch, because each one of these locomotives, since they are Genesis, they're going to have subtle details. They're not just the same locomotive painted in the same paint scheme. Now, these are the yellow sills, so you're talking 2007 on up. We're also doing a 2015 and a 2017 on up. And these are the Triclops. So if you missed the run that we had last time, here's your chance to take part of those. So let's go on. We've talked about UP. This is one I think you guys are going to like. We had a lot of requests for these. When we came out with the SD60Ms before, a lot of people said, "Oh man, why didn't you do the Sioux line in the candy apple red?" And, I thought that's a great idea. Here you go. Now, this is into the early days of the Canadian Pacific taking over ownership. And I remember seeing these in Northern Illinois years ago, working on some CP branch lines. But this is how they appeared, and the top one up there, 6058, that's 1989. And then just a few years later, down there, 6062, that's 1998 plus. That's how I remember seeing them. Subtle differences, you really have to look, mainly what type of horn, things of that nature. But these really stood out. And, for years, for you guys that were modeling the Sioux line, you had the standard white and red, which was a nice paint scheme, don't get me wrong, but this was a kind of a radical departure from their paint scheme, and they really looked nice. When they were clean, really nice. Now these will have the roof-mounted strobes, as you can see there, right by the firecracker antenna. If you have the DCC version, they will function. So you get all those lighting features on top of the strobe light. Nice picture there, submitted by Dean for us. And yeah, that brings back some memories. I remember these. And at the time, I mean, these, by the time I saw these, they were 1998. They weren't exactly modern power, but they weren't old. They were still busy earning their keep. So a lot of you guys like the Prime for Grime, and I agree. The Prime for Grime is a lot of fun, especially if you're doing modern day locomotives. And it's not unusual to find, especially after a mega merger, older equipment and original paint schemes running around the system. This is CIT Group. We'll talk more about these guys in a coming Train Tuesday. But we don't really have to wonder what the lineage of these SD60Ms are. These are still in their as-delivered paint. They're Cascade Green with the white face. It would have had the stylized BN logo on the nose and on the cab. These themselves probably being patched right after the BNSF merger. And really cool. BNSF sold a lot of these off later on, and CIT Group has been using them in their lease service. And this is indicative of locomotives from about 2016. So you guys like the Prime for Grime? I agree. The Prime for Grime it's just so cool to see the different shades of green patch jobs on these, and then a little bit of flat coat on these, and some weathering, and they get convincing extremely fast. So speaking of BNSF, and this is really kind of cool. I'm kind of a closet BNSF guy. I'm more of an old school BN CB&Q guy, but the BNSF is still one of the cool railroads, class ones, current day class ones to rail fan. I really enjoy rail fanning BNSF. And this one's kind of funny because when BNSF came out with their scheme, when they went from the dark green to the black around 2005, when they introduced this logo, they had a painting rule. Anything that was a wide cab got the wider yellow stripe, kind of like the original H2s, and anything that was considered a yard switcher or a standard cab, Spartan cab, got almost like a Heritage 1 scheme with the new logo in black instead of green. And then you see these, and you're thinking, well, these are wide cab, so why are they in a switcher scheme? Well, this seems hard to believe, especially since when some of us not too long ago were seeing these on mainline freight. These are RCL units. These are radio control. If you go to Galesburg, Illinois, you will sometimes see one of these on the hump, switching cars back and forth. Maybe by Train Tuesday, I'll share some of the pictures I've taken of these in the yard. But it's cool because it's a neat paint scheme. It actually, I think the wide cab, the older Triclops wide cab, I think it wears that scheme well. And we'll talk about the details. There's some differences on these compared to what they were when they were new, obviously, when they wore that Cascade green and white. Here's some more Prime for Grime for you. And again, we don't have to guess where these came from. Former UP units. We're really trying to up the game with the Prime for Grime. If you look, there's going to be different versions, different variations of the armor yellow because of weathering, because of patching. The first one up there, which is actually a current day locomotive for web assist management, number 622, there's 3 different shades of yellow on there. You've got the original armor yellow, which is faded out. You've got a patch underneath various parts of the long hood, and then you've got a brighter patch of yellow on the cab where they renumbered it. And this is perfectly at home on any, class 2, even class 1, depending on where it's being stationed. These are kind of used in lease service. And each one of these is different because that's how it is in the real world. Class 1s will sell off their older locomotives, and somebody will purchase them, and their main concern is to basically put their property name on the locomotive and whatever numbering system they have, and the rest is later on they'll paint it. But typically these are tools. These aren't just flashy machines. These are tools. They have to earn a keep. So many times you'll see locomotives like this, and so we wanted to offer these as well. This is a really cool version of Prime for Grime that we're doing this time. Look at the bottom one, 6028, and how we're going to be fading out that bright red. It's almost pink. Now, again, these are all based on current locomotives that are currently in service. And, these are the Prime for Grime that a lot of you guys are asking for. Again, these are Genesis 2.0. We won't go over this too much. The Genesis 2.0. So you're going to have the lighting features. You're going to have all the features you've come to expect with Genesis 2.0. And one of the things I like the most about Genesis 2.0 is the sound. The sound is incredible in these. In my office, I have a small HO scale switching layout, and every once in a while, I'll put one of these locomotives on the track and just turn it on, and it's amazing. It's like sitting in a yard because of the, dual cube, sugar cube speakers. And John just sent me, I'm going to put his thing up here. All 3 of these are Wisconsin Southern. So thank you for that correction. And he probably had a part in those because it's kind of his neck of the woods. So you can thank John for those. I think that's right in his wheelhouse. All right, so moving right along, I got another locomotive for you guys, and this is a locomotive that when I first moved to the Midwest was still mainline power, and now I'm seeing them in Galesburg as being used on the hump, being used as switchers. I never thought I would see that. This is going to be on our ready to roll line, and you've probably guessed what it is already. What we're talking about is SD40-2s. We know you guys like SD40-2s. Now, we got something really exciting to tell you about, too. In the past, we've had a different decoder. This is the first time ever we've offered the SD40-2s in the ready to roll line. We are offering them with Tsunami 2 decoders. So you're going to get the same sound, same decoder that our Genesis locomotives get. And that is pretty cool. We've never done that before. It's brand new. Kevin's happy. I like it when you guys are happy because these are good things. Again, you hear me say on Train Tuesday all the time, we want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what you're saying. And this is exactly what we have the product suggestion for. So we can listen to you guys and see what you want. So what are we offering the SD40-2? Here we go. You guys asked for high hood Norfolk Southern equipment. Here you go. 1980s. This is mid-1980s. You guys asked for it. There you are. Santa Fe. A lot of you guys are still asking for the Santa Fe and the blue and yellow freight scheme. The SD40-2s, they all pretty much had this paint scheme. I remember just seeing these right after the merger on the head end of a lot of trains, and they wore that scheme well. Yeah, SD40-2s is one of my favorite 6-axles, and we're really excited about these. A lot of you guys are asking for Santa Fe. Now, these are early 90s. Subtle differences in the former paint schemes. There was a subtle differences Santa Fe fans will know, and some subtle details, too. How about some Chessie? Everybody likes Chessie. Chessie, we had to offer these two. These are 1977 plus, and these are. We'll talk more about them on Train Tuesday. Of course, these are former Baltimore and Ohio, and they were seen quite often on the Chessie throughout the system. A lot of these survived into the CSX era. Another one we get a lot of requests for, KCS, in this scheme. A lot of guys were asking for this scheme, the gray scheme. So we started to do some work, and developers went to work and looked and said, okay, we can do this. Let's do some Kansas City Southern. And I'm also, while I'm screening between screens too, I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. I try to catch most of your comments. I don't always do that because you got to realize when those screens keep flipping around, I'm doing that from behind the scenes. You can't see me do that. How many of you guys asked for these? EMD lease. Great thing about these locomotives is, we're looking at 1990s. So it doesn't matter if you're doing Conrail, SP, it doesn't matter. These might have shown up on your railroad. I remember seeing Conrail trains with these in their consists. So yeah, I know a lot of you guys were asking for these. So we had to do them again. And I agree, it's a cool paint scheme. Now, I think we've got one more in there. Yeah, we got some Union. If you're a Union Pacific modeler this month, you are set. You are all set. This is mid-1980s. So pretty much everything we're showing you today is, earliest is about 1977 and right up until the 90s. These are mid-1980s Union Pacific, back in the Red Sill era. You've got your strobe. Whether you like Union Pacific or not, you got to hand it to them. That paint scheme is pretty iconic. It's changed subtly over the years, but it's still pretty iconic. So like I said, the biggest news that we've got here, the last run we added the LED lights. We've added a plug and play 21 pin NEM connector for the non decoder, and now for the first time ever, Tsunami 2. And that's huge. And you know what? If you model modern day, we were talking about this earlier. If you do modern day, you can still get one of these and just weather it up really well, because like I said, up in Galesburg, you'll see a lot of these former Santa Fe and Burlington Northern ones being used and switching in the yard. So, Ethan, no, I didn't skip your comment. I probably just didn't see it because I'm flipping through screens. So be persistent. If I see it and it's a question, I might throw it up there for you. So there we go. We got locomotives. We've got some great stuff this month. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm kind of excited about those SD40-2s. I might have to get one of those. We'll have to see about that. And again, you guys were asking for 80s and 90s, so that's why we picked these lines and those paint schemes, because, again, we're listening to you guys. Developers are seeing those emails that you send in, and while they don't respond to them, they are taking all that information and they are using it, and here are the results. All right, moving along to rolling stock. Our first set of items is some tank cars. Actually, you know what? Now I'm going to go with the 60-foot Gunderson boxcars real quick. These are in the ready to roll line. We've got a little bit of everything here for you. We've got everything from TTX to some prime for grime. We even have one. I think this is the first time that we've done a legendary liveries paint scheme. We'll talk about that a little bit here in a second. I'm going to zoom in on here. So if you're modeling the 2000s, even up to now, these are something you're going to want to invest in. These are your 60-foot double door box cars. They see all kinds of service. I've seen these up in Galesburg spotted. I believe the company that is a customer, I believe they get some type of corrugated material for cardboard boxes. They've been used for shipping auto parts, been used for shipping all types of things. So it doesn't matter if you've got a big home layout, switching layout, or if you're part of a club, these come in handy. And again, we're talking 2000. So we're starting with the TTX. This is the moving forward paint scheme. We're offering it in 3 different road numbers. This is great for 2010 on up. Now the cool one right next door, this one for you guys that are doing the modern era stuff. This is 2018 plus. This is a prime for grime. It's a TTX boxcar available in 3 different road numbers, and prime for grime. I mean, you guys, the modern stuff, you guys love that because that's what we see. That's what we see nowadays. You don't see the brightly painted boxcars as much like we did in the past. Coming up, we're doing a rail net. Got that in 3 different road numbers. That's perfect for any time in the night, the 2000s rather. Talk about the here and now, the Providence and Worcester. Now, to my fellow New Englanders out there, do not worry. The misspelling has been corrected. This is just my copy. It has been corrected. It'll be updated on our website soon. But we're offering that in 3 different road numbers as well. And I know a lot of guys are like, well, yeah, it's boring. It's gray. Well, for the guys that are modeling modern era equipment, this is what they see. This is what they need. And believe it or not, we get quite a few requests for more of the modern day within the last 5 years freight equipment. And the 60-footer was no exception. So we wanted to do something pretty much in the here and now. Here we got a Norfolk Southern for you guys that are doing the 90s. That comes in real handy. And of course, these are still out there. I see these out here in central Illinois from time to time. And then last but not least, we've got the Southern Pacific. And it's part of our legendary liveries. Now, some of you guys that are not SP modelers, you might look at that and say, well, that looks perfectly fine to me. Yeah, these never technically existed. But we've talked about legendary liveries in the past, and briefly, legendary liveries doesn't just mean it's some kind of scheme that one of our developers thought, I like the colors and I'm going to put it on this locomotive or car. It's plausible. What I mean by that is there are many times throughout history where orders of anything from freight cars to locomotives were going to go to a certain railroad and be painted in a certain set of colors. And a merger happens. And that delivery is still made, but it's a new owner. And so they would be something entirely different. But this is kind of a what if. What if they had produced that boxcar and let's say UP never took over? And we realize it's not for everybody, but there are some guys that do model. Maybe they model a BN that never merged with the Santa Fe. So we wanted to offer that for you guys. We wanted to give you something kind of like on the plausible line. And these are more, like I said, these are 2000s. The last two squarely in the 90s. All right, I'm just kind of looking at your comments since I was away from your comments for a little bit. Frederick, for the Dash 9s, I know what you're talking about. No, they're not discontinued. They might be sold out because a lot of people pre-ordered them. So Isaac has got a great comment. Gray is great. Makes us focus on the details and nuances of each model more, not just the general color. Yeah, he's got a great point. D'Angelo add graffiti and it looks twice as better. I know there are some folks out there in model railroading that despise graffiti for whatever reasons. But if you're a modeler of somebody that's modeling the 2000s on up, it's just a fact of life. It's out there. So if you're trying to make your stuff as prototypical as possible, love it or hate it, graffiti is part of the game. All right, let's move on to our next item. And this is the tank cars I was telling you about. Okay, so these are our ready to roll 20K gallon general service tank cars. And we did something a little bit different. We did some roads that we never really get into. We tried to get something for everybody here. Now, I want to point something out. You guys had asked this before. Not only have you been asking for the errors, but you've been asking for, what about those placards? It's an important detail. If you're modeling prototype operations, it's kind of important to know that the tank car you spotted at the bakery doesn't have, hydrochloric acid in it. So our developers listen to you guys and check out this one. The first one, the Pemex, as a placard, 1202 for gas, oil, or diesel fuel. It also is 2000s era. Now, second one, also 2000s, TLDX. I'm going to let you chemical experts decide on how to say that. I am not going to butcher that right there. I could, but I don't think we need to be entertained that way. Going back a little bit, 1974, Santa Fe. These were real common. This is for flammable liquids. Now, see, everything that we're offering in 3 different road numbers. So we know you guys like to make unit trains of these. And coming up next, 2006 on up, CELX. That one has got a placard for ethyl acetate. So that should help your operations a little bit. If you've got specific industries that take specific liquids, then this is what you can look at. Now, here we go. Very similar to the Santa Fe. It's got the same placards and such, but this is 2000s plus. Technically 2005 on up because it's got the swoosh logo. And three road numbers. And you guys love tank cars. We get a lot of requests for tank cars. We release the tank cars, and you guys buy them up usually before myself or any of the other guys can get them. So that's good. We want to keep producing freight cars that work well for you. Ricky says, good call on the placards. Yeah, that was a request that we were hearing from folks like you, Ricky, people that were emailing us. And yeah, it really does help. There's nothing more frustrating than, getting your layout to the point where you want to do some operations and you've got a specific industry on your layout and you go to the hobby store to pick up your car for that industry. And you're always going to have that one guy that, hey, did you know that this car that you have spotted on this industry is technically not supposed to go here. So we're trying to help you guys out. And if you're like me and your eyes aren't what they used to be, well, now you know, because we're going to start putting that information here. And that was a idea submitted to us from you guys. Okay, so next up, we've talked about the ready to roll. I think we got some Roundhouse. Yeah, we do. We got some Roundhouse to talk about. Going to go back to boxcars here. Let's zoom in on these. These are your 50-foot outside brace. They're plug door boxcars. These were very popular in the 60s and 70s. They lasted into the 80s. You don't see them much anymore. But for the guys that are modeling 60s and 70s, this is right in your wheelhouse. Now what we have here is we have each one of the ones that we're going to look at. They're offered in three different road numbers. First one up is Santa Fe. Definitely a departure from what you would see in the 90s, where, you know, the mineral brown and the very simple sans serif font. You've got a bright red trimmed in black and that big logo. The 1960s and into the 1970s saw a really interesting splash of color on a lot of lines, and the Class 1s did it really well. So we got a Santa Fe one that's perfect for 1960s modelers. For you guys in the 1970s, can never go wrong with getting another Burlington Northern Cascade Green car. 3 different road numbers available on that one. Heading out to the East Coast, we've got some Chessie, 1970s. These are all based on C&O. And we've got the Reading, the very same railroad that you see on Monopoly. It's not Reading, it's Reading. 1960s. This was a popular paint scheme for them at that time. And it was not uncommon to see these boxcars throughout New England and parts of Canada. Sticking around on that side of the country, we got some Lehigh Valley. And I was, even as a kid, I remember seeing these in New England. And I always wondered why they painted them white. You'd think white would be the worst color to paint their boxcars because of the weathering. So for you guys that like the weather, this is an open canvas for you. It's a blank canvas. 1950s. 1950s Lehigh Valley. And then New York Central and that popular jade. This is 1950s. This paint scheme lasted throughout the 60s, right up until the merger. And yeah, that jade green could be seen everywhere. It's a very popular paint scheme for New York Central fans. So all these are in 3 different road numbers, so you can mix and match as you like. And we're also introducing something kind of cool. We're going to do a Hobbies for Good car. Now this is not based on an actual prototype. This is just a feel-good fun car. You know, it kind of goes back to the days when you used to get the freight cars that were, you know, lettered for tab or you know, Wheaties, things of that nature. But here's the difference. Now, throughout the year, we kind of do these off and on. Hobbies for Good. What is Hobbies for Good? Real briefly, Horizon Hobby, what we like to do is we like to give back to the community. We like to give back to different organizations. Just recently, we gave to the USO, and we gave them a substantial gift, and it was based on Hobbies for Good sales. So every time you buy something that's Hobbies for Good, portion of that money goes to one of those groups that benefit from it, and we're pretty proud about that. I mean, we like to help our community. We're based here in Champaign in California, and technically all over the world. So we like to help out wherever we can, and this is a great way to you know, help out. And we'll talk more about that on the Train Tuesday that we talk about these, but kind of the first time in a while since we've done a freight car like that. You'll probably be seeing more of those as the year progresses. All right, so There you go. Yeah, it's a good freelance. If you got the earlier this summer, the Horizon Hobby and the Athearn cabooses came out. So yeah. Will these be available in the Genesis line? Not really. No, these are just for Roundhouse right now. That doesn't mean we won't do something similar in Genesis in the future, in roads like that. But no, these are all Roundhouse right now. Okay, I've got another Roundhouse to share with you guys, and this is one that we haven't done in quite a while. This is one that's some of you guys that have been in this hobby for a long time may remember these 30-foot flat cars. Now we're going to the Wayback Machine here. 1940s, 1950s. We're offering these guys in two different road numbers each. You see, we got the Rio Grande there from 1940s plus. So if you're still running steam on your layout, here you go. New York Central, that's also the 1940s, two road numbers. Southern Pacific, 1940s on up. New Haven, 1940s and up. And then we've got some maintenance away stuff too. Got some maintenance away. And check out the Pacific Electric, 1950s. Now that's cool. I don't remember the last time we did anything Pacific Electric, if at all. I'd have to ask the developers because I don't remember that. So yeah, this is nice stuff for you guys that are in the transition era. And I mean, even if you're modeling the 50s, all the way up into the 70s, these could still be used in maintenance away. They could be used for all sorts of things. All right, I've got one last thing. You N-scale guys, you're probably thinking we forgot about you. We're not going to forget about you. We've got some N-scale for you. Let's throw this up here real quick. And I'm excited about these. We talked about these in HO just a few minutes ago. We're offering them an N-scale too. Now here's what's really cool about these. And I say it every time, but it's just worth repeating. These cars with their body mounted couplers and the trucks being held in, not with pins, but actual screws, so you can adjust these just like you would an HO freight car. And they're weighted right. And these are great because of their size, they will run on everything from the biggest home layout to the biggest club layout, all the way down to T-track modules. Have no problem whatsoever running on T-track modules, Fremo N modules, N-track modules. They just run really well. So you can build a unit train here if you like. We've got the PEMEX 2000s there. We got 3 road numbers per car. And again, you N-scale guys have been telling us, hey, we want some more modern N-scale offerings. The box cars that you guys have been doing, they're great, but they're not really my era. I need something in the 2000s. Here you go. Now, we do have one older one in there. We got the Santa Fe in 1974. But for the most part, these are all 2000s. Especially the BNSF. I mean, this is right here. Metal wheel sets. They're going to run, if you're doing T-track, they'll run fine on that track. If you're doing a variation of Fremo N or your own variation and you're using code 55, like a lot of guys are doing nowadays, they'll run fine on those. You'll have no issues. And since they are body-mounted couplers, you can switch them very easily. So they run great whether they're in a unit train or if you're just switching them on your layout. So I'm pretty excited about these. All right. So I'm going to put this down. We've got time for a few questions. I'm going to look out there because, like I said, when I'm running the show, I don't always see your questions. I don't always see your comments. So if you think I've missed it, here's your chance to throw that back up there, and we can go from there. How about N-scale 60-foot TTX high cube box cars? That's a great suggestion. You know what I'm going to say. Yeah, get it to our product suggestion email. Let's see. Any questions? Derek's happy. Derek's happy with that. You know, Derek's got a YouTube channel, DG Model Works. Check it out. It's got a really nice, for you guys that like Norfolk Southern, this is a channel you're gonna want to check out. He's got some really nice stuff over there that he's working on, and I think he might be happy. I think he might be wanting to look at those SD40-2s. We'll have to see. So Jonathan's got, and usually, you know, when somebody writes this much, I like to throw it up there because they took the time to write this. Jonathan says, "Hey, Jim, I got some great news to tell you guys. The Essex Terminal Railway got their SW9 Unit 105 back from Sonera, Ontario. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's been rebuilt and repainted in its original 1956 scheme as a heritage unit. That is pretty cool. You got any pictures, Jonathan? Because if you've got pictures, we'd really like you to send those into the product development or product suggestion email. That is pretty cool. Let's see. Do we have updates on the 2.0 AC 4400? Currently, it's in the works. John's been on twice now to let us know. We shared some CAD drawings. If you've got Railroad Model Craftsman, I believe they shared some pictures on there of the AC 4400. Yeah, he's working on it. And remember, it's one of those things where we want to make sure it's accurate. And modern day locomotives, every railroad has a different version of the same locomotive. So we will have some updates more. As soon as we get some more updates, I will have John back on and we'll talk about it. So don't worry. Chase is commenting. He's like, those placards on the tank cars can add some fun chaos to switching as well. Yeah, they really do, because you know, again, you have to make sure you're putting the right material at the right spot in the when you're switching. John has a question. He's like, one of those flat. I'm assuming, John, you're talking about the flat cars we're talking about today. So here's the deal. You have until November 26th. It's Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving here in the States. And you have the day after Thanksgiving to place your pre-orders for everything you've seen here today. So you've got about 3.5, 4 weeks to go to your local hobby shop, go to your favorite retailer, and pre-order these. And they will come out. Typically, they take about a year to come back out. So we're expecting to see these next November, next December. And yeah, you're very welcome for your reply. Not a problem. I try to catch them all. I don't always do that. I apologize if I've missed you. Please don't think that I'm slighting you or ignoring you. It's just there's a lot of comments that come across I don't always catch. Let's see. I haven't heard anything. I would be excited by that. Yeah, I mean, David's talking about the surf liners that we did in HO that we introduced this past summer. I think we're going to be seeing some of those here in the next few months to start teasing you guys. But an N scale, yeah, I think Janet talked and said there was a possibility that might happen. So but I haven't heard anything about that, to answer your question. All right, I got time for one, maybe two more questions, and then we're going to pull the pin. It is the weekend, and you guys got modeling to do, working on some of your layout. Let's see. That's what we got. I'm kind of going back here. It looks like guys are pretty happy with all this. That's good. Delta 9 says happy Halloween. Yeah. I think I got a Halloween thing going on tonight. I don't know. We'll see. I'll beam on out of here. Let's see. I don't see any other questions. So at that time, I think we'll go. CA's asked this twice. So I want to get it up there. CA says, "Hey, contest. You mentioned that before last weathering contest, you guys had more to come. What's up? Trying to win this time." I understand. Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. It's been busy here at Athearn. We've got so much going on, and it's all for you guys. We had John start with us last spring, and he hit the ground running, and he has got so many projects that he's working on, and trying to keep up with the developers and all the cool stuff that they got. And the biggest thing I have a problem with is keeping those secrets, because there's so much cool stuff that they're working on. And the rest of this year, we've got some great stuff for you. As you can see, the SD59M-2, never been done before. And here we go. We've got something that has not been offered before, and we wanted to keep doing that. We want to keep getting you the locomotives and the rolling stock that you guys need, that we've had before, but you want in your road names. And we also want to come up with new stuff too. So, just stay tuned. We got some exciting stuff in the next few months. Glenn, no, he didn't. And I think he's a different generation, if you know what I mean. All right. Well, guys, I want to thank you all for showing up today. Don't forget, we'll be back for Train Tuesday next Tuesday, same time that we always do, 3:30. And we're gonna show the Genesis stuff. We'll probably talk about the SD40-2s, and we'll talk about any other news that we've got coming out. So we're at the gateway of the weekend. There's only one thing left to do, and that's to sign out. So I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, do some modeling, and above all, high greens, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next.